Hey everyone, welcome back to another installment of the best upcoming PC games to play, this one for the month of July 2021. I gotta say that there aren't too many AAA games coming out this month, but I do think that the AA and indie ones are delivering here, as we've got a pretty solid list and a healthy mix of genres. There's a few interesting looking action games, some survival, FPS, and believe it or not, 2 MMOs launching this month. That's right, who would have thought that that'd actually be happening? 2 in 1 month. On top of that, there's quite a few top-down games, so I hope you like those as well. And with that said, let's get right into it. As usual, we'll be ordering this by release date, and kicking things off, we've got Crowfall. Remember that game? This Kickstarter MMO was funded and revealed back in 2015, and after 6 years of development, it is finally launching. Now, besides being an MMO, Crowfall is what they're calling a throne war simulator, where they've taken elements of survival, strategy, and political sim games and put them into an open player-driven world. There are player-built and maintained cities, a player-driven economy, and the ability to choose what you want to focus on, whether you want to be a gatherer and crafter or someone who just does PvP combat. So the gear in the game will be made by master crafter players, and that is used to fuel the PvP combat that's all about players fighting and sieging the opposing factions. All of this happens on what are basically seasonal campaigns with their own rule sets that will move through literal seasons from the spring to the winter, getting progressively more difficult, and this is set over the course of multiple months, eventually concluding with one side being the winner. There's some really neat ideas in this game, but unfortunately, after the 6 years in development, it seems any excitement for this thing has completely evaporated. It kind of blows my mind because at one point this was one of the most anticipated upcoming MMOs. I'd say specifically in the early days between 2015 and 17, there was a lot of real interest in Crowfall. However, as time has passed and various playable alpha and beta tests took place, any excitement around this thing seems to be gone. It's a real shame, but from what I've seen, I get it. This doesn't look great or apparently run well, and it doesn't play that great either. I was definitely not impressed myself when I briefly tried the game a couple of months back. So why is it on the list, you might ask? Well, I'm just a fan of MMOs in general. I'm willing to check out anything that's new, give it a shot, and try to, judge it for myself. So yeah, even though no one else seems excited about Crowfall, I'll be jumping in and trying it out, even if it's only for a couple of days. Crowfall will be officially launching on PC on July the 6th with a base price of $39.99. Next up is Black Skylands. This is an upcoming top-down shooter that combines elements of open world, sandbox, and action-adventure games into this really unique-looking package. Now, I do suspect that the art style and top-down camera may turn some people off, but I gotta say there's a lot of cool-looking things about this game. For one, the gameplay is a mix of aerial and ground combat. So say you come across this island with a group of really tough enemies, you could either just use your skyship and attack them from the air, or if you want to go in on foot, you have the ability to grapple to the island and engage in some up-close top-down shooter action using a wide variety of weapons. The game is set in this big, expansive open world where you use that skyship to explore these various floating islands. There'll be forest and snowy lands, urban jungles, and of course the mysterious Black Skylands. While exploring, you'll be focused on capturing territories and clearing out occupied areas to expand the power of your faction and gain access to new resources, upgrades, and characters. There will be customization for both your skyship and your weapons. You also have this home base that's called the Fathership, where you'll have to build this up, expand upon it, and protect it from invasions. I think this is actually a really neat looking game. It's the first title from Hungry Couch, a fairly small studio of 15 people, and I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen of it so far. I think if you like indie games and you don't mind top-down pixel art, this might be a one to keep an eye on. So this will be coming to Steam Early Access on PC on July the 9th, and I don't see a price tag at the moment of making this video, but if I were to guess, I would say this will probably be somewhere between $30 and $40. Next up, we've got our second MMO launch of the month, this one called Sword of Legends Online, also known as Solo. It is an action MMO set in a fantasy world that is rooted in Chinese mythology, and this joins the growing list of Eastern MMOs making their way to the West. Although interestingly enough, I've been hearing some pretty good things about this, which is in stark contrast to the typical sentiment around a lot of Eastern MMOs that get ported. People seem decently interested in this one. So the game apparently focuses on this fast-paced action combat that will reward proper reactions as you have to time dodges to avoid attacks. There's a combo system where you chain skills for increased effectiveness. It's also got hybrid combat where you have the ability to swap between action and tab targeting. I gotta say, personally, I haven't loved the combat in games that have tried this in the past. Maybe it'll be different this time around. There are 6 available classes, each with 2 different roles that you can freely switch between depending on what you're doing. They also say that there are going to be tons of dungeons with numerous difficulty levels, apparently a decent end game with both PvE and PvP options, as well as a focus on storytelling with some fully voiced cutscenes. Now, I don't know much of the nitty-gritty details here, as I haven't tried this out yet for myself, but again, the buzz around this one has been fairly positive. Also, apparently the monetization isn't overly aggressive here, so Solo will be launching for PC on July the 9th with a base price of $39.99. Now, those are the games in the first half of the month. Now we move on to the much more loaded back half. Kicking things off here is Death's Door. This is an isometric action-adventure game that has what I think a cool premise, slick-looking combat, and a killer style. I'm pretty pumped for this one. So in Death's Door, you're going to play as a crow, as in the bird, who has a soul it was going after stolen from it, and then you have to chase that thief down into another dimension. Kind of weird, but it's cool here because the game has you moving through various levels, taking on these increasingly challenging enemies, and finding the means to access these locked off areas, while ultimately facing off against these colossal bosses as you progress to chase down the soul thief. The combat, from what I've seen, looks fairly fast-paced. You'll be using a variety of magic, melee, and ranged weapons to take out all sorts of different mythical creatures, while also having to properly time dodges and countering. As you progress, you're going to collect souls to unlock upgrades and customization for your weapons and character, and I just think this thing looks great, especially the art style. I really love it. It's got like this Tim Burton-y vibe. And I do want to say as well that despite the presentation here, this isn't what you might think. This is not an isometric roguelike. It's actually apparently more of a Metroidvania style game. There are branching paths with locked off areas that you have to try to figure out how to get into, and there's also quite a bit of storytelling. Now, I'm not sure what that means for the replayability of this game. I'm hopeful there's something there because I really do love the look of this game and the gameplay that I've seen. This one coming to PC and Xbox consoles on July the 20th, and it's listed at the moment on Steam for $19.99 with a 15% discount available for the next couple of weeks. Next up, we have got Tribes of Midgard, a Norse-themed co-op survival action RPG. So the main goal in this game is you have to protect the seed of Yggdrasil, and to do so, you're going to go out and explore the wilderness, hunting animals, harvesting resources, and diving into dungeons to gather what you need to craft weapons, armor, and defenses. This whole process is done to prepare for nightfall when these hell things emerge and attempt to attack the seed. So you're going to have to use everything that you gather and craft to successfully fight them back in order to continue, and then with each passing day, these enemies will be growing stronger, and you'll have to gather more resources, create new tools, and collect better gear to survive. The entire world is procedurally generated with a variety of biomes, locations, ruins, and other landmarks to explore. You can apparently build anywhere, which is going to let you set up camps as you adventure, or construct ramps to access new terrain. You'll get to pick from various classes, each with their own unique abilities and skills. There will be these colossal giants for you to track down and defeat that are going to drop powerful gear. And finally, the game is playable solo or with groups of up to 10. So it looks like they're taking some of the fundamental elements of survival games and then adding this neat narrative with this Norse-themed layer on top of it. Now, the gameplay footage I've seen does look pretty smooth, albeit with some simplistic and at times kind of janky looking animations, but I think the premise is good, and if it plays well, this could be pretty fun. So this will be coming to the PC and PlayStation consoles on July 27th for $19.99. Moving on, we have Eldest Souls. This is a fast-paced boss rush Souls-like game that says to offer challenging timing-based combat layered with lots of customization. So basically, you're going to battle your way through a series of boss rush encounters that require precise timing and reaction to various fight mechanics in order to to defeat. And in doing so, you make yourself stronger and unlock new capabilities. All of this takes place in this ancient old god citadel that you're going to explore. Now, one of the main features of this game is its customization and what they call the ability sandbox, which is broken into 3 key parts. First, there are the fighting styles. These define how you approach each boss fight. So there are 3 of these: the wind slide, which is all about repositioning and cutting through enemies; the berserker slash, which is about building up fury and unleashing heavy hitting attacks; and then the counter style, which, as you might guess, is about learning and countering incoming attacks. In addition to the fighting styles, there are the shards that you will get from defeating bosses. These will provide active and passive abilities from that boss, kind of like a Kirby style, a Mega Man style gameplay. And then there's the infusion system, where you can take those shards and actually put them into the abilities that you get in your fighting style skill trees, further altering those abilities. So between the fighting styles, the shards, and the ability to infuse, there's said to be quite a large number of possible combinations and builds, basically different ways to approach the combat. So this game is going to be launching on the PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch on July 27th. At the moment, not seeing a price here. Next on the list is Chernobylite, an RPG survival horror that mixes free exploration with challenging combat, unique crafting, and a non-linear sci-fi story. This game takes place in an accurate 3D scanned recreation of the Chernobyl exclusion zone, but in this like fantasy horror setting. You have to build up a team, try to survive, and reveal the twisted secrets of this alternate universe Chernobyl. Exploration is a big aspect of this game as you explore the literal Chernobyl. I can't get over this part. It's just Chernobyl, but fantasy version. So you're gonna make your way through the surrounding wilderness, move through various apartment complexes, and then into the nuclear site itself. The game has this non-linear sci-fi plot where you'll have to make decisions that impact the world, like whether you want to ally or fight the residents of the zone. You can also build up a team of companions to help support you. There are survival elements from both natural and supernatural threats. You'll also be scavenging and crafting, and you also have access to this like unique device that lets you change some of your previous choices, but in doing so alters reality and may result in you having to fend off these invading creatures from other worlds. Really cool idea with this game here. I gotta mention as well, this is a single player story focused game. There's no multiplayer co-op element to this whole scenario. And also, this game has been in Steam Early Access since 2019. At the moment, it's got pretty good reviews from what I see, and the full launch is happening for PC on July 28th for $29.99. Next up is Project Warlock 2. This is the sequel to 2018's Pixel FPS. This is a fast, frantic, old school style shooter inspired by Doom, Hexen, and Wolfenstein. Project Warlock 2 will be picking up after the events of the first game and will feature 3 episodes, each revolving around the different warlocks with their own skills, perks, and arsenal, while also taking place in distinct settings with a menagerie of deadly monsters, bosses, secrets, and upgrades, all of which fuel and feed right into the game's frenetic combat. So each warlock in Project Warlock 2, it will be carrying its own arsenal of over 20 weapons based on their various playstyles. There'll be shotguns, machine guns, rifles, launchers, swords, staffs, cannons, and more. Each also have 3 unique magic skills supporting either gun or magic focused play. Enemies in the sequel have increased capabilities. They can now jump, run, hold back when needed, and also have a larger variety of attacks. Every world in the game will consist of 6 sprawling levels that are roughly 5 to 10 times bigger than those in the first game. They say that you can expect to spend up to an hour in each level, or even more if you want to find all the secrets, upgrades, and Easter eggs. The original is fairly well liked and reviewed from what I personally saw, and it looks like they're hoping with this sequel to build upon that original game's success. Project Warlock 2 is scheduled to enter Steam Early Access on July 29th. No price at the moment. Now we've got The Ascent. This is an action RPG shooter set in this dystopian cyberpunk world. Everything's gone to hell and you're trying to survive and figure out what happened. So the game is said to blend deliberate twin-stick shooter gameplay with some classic RPG elements. They're also really focused on creating a sense of despair and scale and verticality in the world. I could immediately tell that from looking at some of this game's footage. Now, in terms of gameplay, again, it's a twin-stick shooter, so you're going to aim around guided by these laser lasers as you try to pick off enemies, and you'll have access to various types of weapons you can swap to or these lethal gadgets to use. There's a dynamic cover system as you can duck behind debris piles and other objects. Along with this, parts of the environment will be destructible, that you can use this to your advantage. The game also has plenty of RPG elements between the story, loot, and customization. So you're going to start off with basically nothing but a pistol, but then as you progress, you'll find weapons, armor, and augmentations. You can also level up, which is going to give you access to new skills. There's character customization through this cyberware that's going to be used to suit your different playstyles. There's also lots of storytelling and world building, with big cities to explore and NPCs to talk to in a wide range of districts, from the deep slums to these high luxury spheres, all part of you attempting to put together these clues and unfold the story. And the entire game can be played alone or with up to 3 friends in local and online co-op. And from what I've seen, this just looks like a super immersive world. Like, especially for a top-down game, the level of detail in these gameplay trailers make this thing look fantastic. I'm pretty pumped for this one too. This is coming to PC and Xbox on July 29th and is priced at $29.99. And the final game on today's list is Little Devil Inside. This is an action-adventure RPG with survival elements set in a surreal, atmospheric, semi-open world. Now, I think what stands out most about this game is simply the look. It's got almost this dreamy art style and setting, along with these unique camera angles that they use. The game is, I think, certainly eye-catching. It's also clearly trying to do something different than your average action survival RPG. I mean, they say as much themselves, claiming this game is not just about killing demons and saving the world. You'll take in the atmosphere and live a realistic life in an unrealistic world. This is a game that tells stories about people with unusual jobs, such as hunting monsters, and what happens in everyday life. So while playing the game, you'll be alternating between these combat-focused action adventures that you go out on, and then downtime as you return home, as you return to your city and relax and prepare for your next mission. I mean, this thing is just super unique looking, and I can understand why this thing has so much excitement behind it. Although I don't know that it actually belongs on this list because it is slated to launch in July, but apparently from my research, it's starting off as a PlayStation exclusive and then eventually coming to PC. So I'm not sure that the PC launch is actually happening this month. For that reason, I got a couple of other bonuses to throw into the list as well for you. I want to mention that Fallout 76 is having their Steel Rain update on July 7th. This adds a new quest line about the Brotherhood of Steel. It adds new locations and gear. There's a new season to rank up and unlock rewards in, as well as new legendary crafted items. I know this game gets memed on a lot, and especially early on when this thing launched, that was rightfully done. But from what I've heard, this thing has really come a long way, and I guess I'm happy to see that they're continuing to update and support it. We also this month have the Ashes of Creation alpha test. Now, this is a super early build of the game. It's definitely not feature complete and will probably be super buggy and laggy, but there is a preview weekend happening from July 9th to the 11th. That's fairly restricted. And then a longer alpha test is taking place from July 14th to August 13th. Both of these will have no NDA, so expect to see a lot of Ashes of Creation footage out there. And then lastly, I want to mention that New World's beta is happening this month. Yes, it's finally here, just ahead of the August 31st launch. New World is having a beta test starting on July the 20th and lasting until August 2nd. So this test is going to have all of the new features that we've been talking about that they have been adding over the past year or so. All these new weapons, new zones, new enemies, new AI systems, the dungeons, the fishing, the revamped quest line, the voice acted story. So much has come to the game, so much has changed about the game just since last August in that preview event. I'm pretty pumped to jump in and check out the new and improved version of New World. And with that, we are wrapping up this month's list. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was pretty long and extensive of a video for just a top 10 list, but I'm trying to give you guys enough detail and get enough information about these games to actually tell you something about them besides this is the name of the game and the genre that it's in. So hopefully you guys like it. There seemed to be a pretty good reception to last month's video, and as long as people are enjoying this, finding it useful or helpful, I'll probably keep this series going. So there you go. Those are the 10 best looking new PC games coming out in July 2021, and then a couple of other bonuses in there as well. As always, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.